Prince Tony Momoh, the journalist par excellence, a bibliotherapist and cultural engineer, is the 165th child of Momoh I. He is the third of the 4 children his mother had for Momoh I, and his mother was the junior of the 3 groups into which the Momoh household of 48 wives and 257 children were organized. He was educated at Government School Auchi, the school Momoh I had established at Auchi in 1922.
Tony Momoh prides himself as number 165 of the children of Momoh I, who was the Otaro of Auchi 1990 to 1944. He was the first Momoh to be Otaro of Auchi and the 6th Otaro of Auchi. My full names: Anthony Sulaiman Macnono Momoh. But later, in my journalism career, an editorial advisor from Mirror Group, Mr. Korn, said Tony is more poetic. And that is how I took Tony Momoh in all my writings since 1962 when I joined the Daily Times. But that Tony was hero worship name I acquired because the hero, as we were growing up, everybody had their hero. My hero was Anthony Enahoro, who was the most popular politician from our area. My academic hero was Antonio Seni, the first graduate, Auchi graduate in forestry, director of forestry. And my international hero was Tony Eden, who 1956 bombed the Suez Canal when Egypt closed it down. And I said, Tonys are tough, and I want to be Tony. So that is me. I'm 81 now.
He also attended Teachers Training College, Abraka, the University of Nigeria, Nsukka, the University of Lagos, and the Nigerian Law School. He has degrees in mass communication and law, and is a solicitor and advocate of the Supreme Court of Nigeria.
And I regard myself as a proud member of what I claim to be the largest organized family in the whole world. My father had a total of 48 wives and 257 children. I am number 165. My elder brother, who is the Otaro of Auchi now, is number 90. The first was born in 2003, in 1903, and then the last in 1945. My father died in 1944, and the last child, who is now a grandmother, was born in 1945.
He worked in various capacities, including professional and administrative, in the Daily Times of Nigeria, such as General Manager, Times Publications Division, General Manager, Planning and Development Editor, Daily Times, and Manager, Times Journalism Institute. He was also active on the professional education circuit, serving as Secretary and later President, Nigeria Guild of Editors. He was Chairman, National Registration Council of the Nigerian Union of Journalists, and has served on the boards of Nigerian Airways, the Nigerian Press Council, Independent Newspapers Limited, the Nigeria Media Merit Awards, NNMA, and African Refugees Foundation. He is a fellow of the Commonwealth Journalists Association and the Nigerian Guild of Editors, and holds a cultural award given to him in Japan for his contribution to the development of culture in the world.
In 1995, I wrote a book, Each Man His Time, the biography of an era, which documents the life and times of Momoh I. And that's a well-organized document showing that showing that in the history of a family organization, we have a few lessons to teach the world. The British said Momoh had the very last family, but did not seem to have family problems. The family was organized into 7 compounds, and all the compounds, each compound was headed by a woman, the eldest, the old one from the eldest wives, you know. And we now organize ourselves into wings. So I come from a wing. Others came from different wings, 7 different wings. And the head of that wing is one of the most senior wives of Momoh. And then living with that old eldest woman is the youngest wives were shared among the 7 women. And then the middle class wives lived on their own.
Momoh has published many books and given papers to the media, law and politics. His books include Reflections on Letters to My Countrymen, Each Man His Time, The Biography of an Era, and Democracy Watch, a mother's diary in 3 volumes moderating Nigeria's walk on the democracy highway every week for 12 years from 1999 to 2011.
Every 6 months, there was an oath taken. I will never see anything wrong with my husband. I will never see anything wrong with my co-wives. I will never see anything wrong with my children. So all of us were brought up to love, not to hate. Because we were told that if you hate anybody, or you hate your brother, like you go and say you want to prepare juju for anybody, you will drop dead. And who wanted to drop dead? I didn't want to drop dead. So all of us, grew up to hate. And that's one thing. I don't know hatred.
Between 1986 and 1990, he was the Minister of Information and Culture of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. He also served as chairman of the Board of Nigeria Airways, and he is a member of the Nigerian Press Council. In an incisive interview, Tony Momoh, in a no-holds-barred manner, took us down memory lane on the reasons why certain actions and decisions he took were necessary while he was the Minister of Information several years back. The period he held sway as Minister of Information was a sensitive time in the annals of the Nigerian history. It was a period the military perpetrated itself in power, no end in sight, as to if they were ready to ever hand over leadership to a democratically elected government. The military was somehow more interested in the retaining of power, and there was apprehension from the people if there was ever going to be a civilian rule. For Tony Momoh, the people have to be properly informed about the activities of the government of the then military president, General Ibrahim Badamasi Babangida. One way to convey the messages was through his writing of letters. Tony Momoh will forever be remembered in the history of information dissemination as one of the most audacious, outspoken, and powerful information ministers Nigeria has ever produced. He was strong in his pen, and for his various letters to his fellow countrymen, Nigeria will always remember a man who did everything possible to create an interface between the government of his era as a Minister of Information and the management of the emotions and temperament of the people in a military dictatorship. On why he decided to write letters which were very famous in his time as a minister, he stated that it was the situation at the time that culminated in such writing. On whether the letter to our country people achieved its purpose, he has this to say.
When we got to government, there were a restructuring of governance, and that was the time they were talking of this structural advancement program, SAP, a structural adjustment program. And then, which meant that there had to be deregulation, there had to be less government. And there was a program of return to civil rule. So I decided to write a letter to reflect the expectation in each next step. And I wrote letters to my countrymen, 11 or 12 of them. And those letters were translated into Nigerian languages, about 17. We have these publications in the Ministry of Information. And it was translated to the major languages and distributed all over the country.
Tony Momoh was a minister in the regime of Ibrahim Badamasi Babangida. That period was most sensitive because the agitation for civilian rule was very high. One could imagine how he was able to move along because from his life pattern, Tony Momoh would always be frank to a fault.
I was Minister of Information and Culture, 1986 to 1990, 4 years. IBB came in, that's Ibrahim Badamasi Babangida, came in 1985. And then the Minister of Information was Anthony Ukpo. So 1 year after, 1986, they restructured as Anthony Ukpo became governor of Rivers State. And then I was appointed Minister of Information and Culture. I had been in Daily Times as the General Manager, Publications Division. That's the biggest division of Daily Times, the big e-com earner of Daily Times. And I was there to now promote structural adjustment program, and the program of change to civil rule, which will end in 1990. So we were there, and I was writing letters to my countrymen. And when the program of return to civil rule, the one that brought in the politicians, lots of proposals were made. But at the end of the day, they said a committee was set up to, sieve and sieve what was happening, and they came out with two broad groups, which they gave names to. The SDP and the NRC. And then the SDP was formerly referred to as a little to the left, and the NRC as a little to the right. So those two political parties were now being, promoted.
How did he go about selling the agenda of a government in his era as a minister, when there were only very few means of communication? Tony Momoh had to travel around the nooks and crannies of the nation.
As Minister of Information, I did the promotion all over the country. The manifesto and the constitution of both parties. I will go to a state and go to the village where there's no electricity and promote it there. Then come to the state capital to have everybody from all over the state coming to promote it to all the traditional rulers. And they will ask questions which I will answer, promoting this SDP and NRC.
Tony Momoh in 1990 had left as a Minister of Information and was now the chairman of Nigerian Airports Authority. Those periods of being the chairman of the Airports Authority was when the preparation for civilian rule started. He was interested in the military handing over power to a democratically elected government.
I left a position of minister in 1990 and became chairman of the board of Nigeria Airways. So I was in chairman of that board up to 1993. So that was the situation. So since I was there promoting the two parties, I was there, moderating a lot of things all over the country. I knew the formation and emergence of the two parties as at the time of the elections. And I had known Abiola. I was the one who wrote the blueprint for the establishment of the Concord for Abiola. So we were friends. At the end of the day, I told Abiola earlier, 1983 elections, not to contest election. But 1993, I wrote a letter to him to contest the election that I think is mature. It's time for him to be part of politics in Nigeria. I haven't been writing letters to my countrymen, the first in 1987 and the last in 1990. I had addressed the whole spectrum of activities and outings, in the letters to my countrymen.
Tony Momoh also spoke about the two political parties formed back then, the Social Democratic Party SDP and the National Republican Convention NRC, and the unfolding political crisis that later engulfed the entire nation. The politics that saw two strong politicians that the history of Nigeria will forever remember lock horns. Moshood Kashimawo Abiola of the Social Democratic Party SDP and the National Republican Convention's Bashir Tufa. What about the unfolding saga, seen as a macabre dance, and the issues that brought about annulment of election, as well as the role he played in ensuring that the proper thing was done?
June 12, even my own office in Anthony Village, law office, the garage, I gave it to INEC. They have been doing, up to now, they have been doing their registration there. So I was there and I was going to vote. I had never, before they really voted, I didn't believe in subscribing to bringing someone who may fail. That had been my preoccupation. But in this one, I believed that we had laid the foundation for a credible operation of democracy in Nigeria. So I was going to vote on June 12th. I went to my safe where I kept my voter's card. I couldn't find it. Then I didn't vote. Unfortunately, after the voting had closed, I went there, the card was there. But I was so happy that voting had taken place. Abiola won our polling unit, and the thing was free, fair, transparent, peaceful. Oh yes, all over the country. All over the country. So we're all waiting to celebrate victory. So I traveled to England after June 12th. And was there frantically waiting for announcement to be made because it was all over the place that Abiola had won. Then, 23rd or so, they announced the annulment of the election. And I said, trouble sleep, Nyanga go wake up. I said, we are in trouble in Nigeria. So I started documenting what was happening from June 12 and so on and so forth. Then I started keeping a daily diary, analyzing what was happening from day to day. From June 24 to August 27, when it was predicted that, when it was planned that military would come to an end, and then a new president will be sworn in. And at the time that IBB will leave government. Every day, I kept a diary. I will analyze things of the day, at least speculate. And I must tell you that all my speculations, there were none that did not come to pass. So when there was this annulment, I wrote to IBB to annul. And I said, you have done so much. All these new generation banks, the cancellation of import duties, this cancellation of this industrial program, where after packaging where you put the industry, government will tell you where to site it, where you locate the industry. IBB canceled all of them. And Nigeria opened up fast. All these new generation banks opened up. The new millionaires you have, there's hardly anybody who became a millionaire or billionaire that were not built during IBB's opening up the economy. I said, look at the beautiful thing you have done. The annul, June 12th, decree. And then, if you don't, everything you ever did will be messed up because of June 12th mistake. And as I said, anybody thinking of IBB will say June 12th. June 12th. So I kept a diary till August 27th. Because lots of people were saying, lots of people will say that IBB, when it goes, that's the time they will return. Lots of people escape from Nigeria. And I said in that diary, before August 27th, I said, August 27th will come and go. IBB will leave August 27th. But the fact is, troubles in Nigeria will begin after August 27th. So those who think that when they return August 27th, that the time the will say it will end, are joking. And it happened.
He also reflected on why he wrote the book, reminiscing on June 12. He noted that the incident of June 12 remains indelible, and those who played roles in it will have questions to answer from those who were born in 1993. What informed many of his critical writings is the basis of our incisive interview.
All the children were born November 1, 1993, and will be 30 years old in 2024. The letter was postmarked 2024, November to 2024. So technically they should read that letter in 2024, November, to see the type of Nigeria we left for them, those of us who voted in 1993. And the least, the youngest of them were about 20 years old, or above 20 years. So the letter I wrote will protect those who were born in 1993 and those who were less than 20 years old in 1993. So the youngest of all those who will read the letter in 2024 will be early 50s. The early 50s. And they should judge us. See what happened all the year 1993 when we stopped the growth of Nigeria. Nigeria would have been more powerful today, would have led the road of democracy. We changed it, we changed all that. And what they find, I said what they find that time, they should use in judging all those who were there. I gave the name of governors, name of IBB and others, name of all this thing. But I said that, I tried though, and I said, I am not guilty. And this book is my proof of evidence.
The annulment of June 12 raised apprehension. It promoted the challenges of the divides which successive governments have continued to inherit, because everybody in the geographical zones of the country voted for Moshood Abiola.
Spoke about how they organized for Abiola to even defeat Tofa in his own unit in Kano. So it's not as if there was any controversy between North and South during the election. The whole country, were together in voting for Abiola. But the military cancelled the election and subverted, changed to civil rule. And at the end of the day, to pacify the Southwest and return to civil rule, Abacha, OBJ, Obasanjo was brought, and he was there for 8 years, which was meant to pacify the Southwest.
It was a very big challenge that also worried some of them, who in one form or the other were still in the corridors of power. He noted that the trouble of Nigeria had started and would continue after Ibrahim Babangida had left office on August 27, 1993. As a skilled professional writer, he decided immediately after the annulment of the election to document his story for posterity.
Lots of people will say that IBB, when it goes, that's the time they will return. Lots of people escape from Nigeria. And I said in that diary, before August 27, I said, August 27 will come and go. IBB will leave August 27. But the fact is, troubles in Nigeria will begin after August 27. So those who think that when they return August 27, that the time the will say it will end, are joking. And it happened. He left. And because of the pressure, with due respect, because of the pressure, IBB invited Omoruyi. Professor Omoruyi was his right-hand man, in Benin. And in fact, it was Professor Omoruyi who even came to me and told me that I was being considered for a bigger job of Minister of Information and Culture. What I thought was a managing director of Daily Times. And eventually I became, the Minister of Information and Culture. At the end of the day, this Omoru he said, go and bring letter of the annulment. That was the information we had, which he did. And when he came, they didn't allow him to enter his office. So he called the IBB and said, look, I'm not allowed to enter your office. So he said, come. And sent some of his, aides to go and bring him to his office. So he came to the office, and as he was there, one brigadier, senior army officer, came to the office and said, Professor, this is how you mislead C&C. He walked him out of the office. So the annulment letter was not submitted. And to tell you that there was trouble in the house, when IBB was leaving, August 27, he was wearing a kaftan. Not military uniform. He was not pulled out. There was no celebration of his own leaving. The send-off that army normally provides, he just went away. They did draw him out in a kaftan, unsung, uncelebrated, in spite of all he had done. Because there had been apparently an internal coup.
Entitled Experiment with Disintegration, for obvious reasons, had restricted circulation.
Because of Abacha's place being the strongest backbone for the interim government and being the most senior minister, I wrote a letter to him, September 13, 1993, telling him to revisit the annulment and call Abacha and Tufa. Tell them what, set up, tell Abiola and Tufa. And then try them if there's any offenses they have committed. Otherwise, he should call Abiola to head a national government. And I said, if this is not done, General, it will not be easy for someone from your part of the country to assume power without problems. That's what my younger brother, Professor C.S. Momoh, who was University of Lagos, saw. I told my wife, if that book comes out, because I had now packaged it to a book, including that letter, and those I sent copies to, the letter was addressed to Abacha, not to Shonekon. I sent copies, and I wrote those I was reporting our generation to. All the governors, 30 governors that time, before the creation of these other 6 states. Then the leadership of the National Assembly. Then the media gurus that time, in the Guardian, in the Daily Times, in the, Concord that time, and I wrote their names in the letter. And I restricted the circulation. The book was titled Experiment with Disintegration, because I believed that the annulment of an election that was peaceful, that was credible, that was, that annulment will create more trouble that we bargained for.
The book Experiment with Disintegration was a kind of documentation that will become historical reference point to those born on November the 1st, 1993.
I told the story of what happened, the background, political background of Nigeria, and I identified a 30-year cycle in Nigeria, 1900, 1930, 1960, 1990, and said the next heavy duty change in Nigeria will be 2020. I identified the cycle. The caliphate, the coming of the caliphate, how the lifespan of the caliphate will be 100 years, and what happened in 1900, when the caliphate was, removed with the coming of the British, and then in 1960, the independence. 1990, when we would have returned to civil rule, but we didn't, we proposed it to 1993. 1993, we annulled the election. I said the next time of heavy change will be 2020. So I didn't know that 2020 will bring more fundamental changes, even worldwide.
Part 5 of the book was a letter he addressed to the children born in 1993. He postmarked it 2024, that it will be 30 years after it was written.
Those born in 1993 will become 30, and coming along with those who were less than 20 years old in 1993. 20 plus 30 is 50. So those that will judge us will be 50 years and below.
Here, Tony Momoh chronicled some of the issues that reshaped his life as a writer who has written over 27 books. For a while, the burden of having Nigeria toe the line of prudence in the political space constitute a burden in his heart, and for this reason, he has continually sought means to present this issue for national discussion. In 2002, with the return to democracy, he wrote a book, To Save Nigeria, Let Us Talk. Tony Momoh's call is for the nation to discuss the cost of governance through decongesting the political space for automatic economic deregulation to emerge. To save Nigeria, let us talk draws the people's attention to the need to quickly decongest the political space. According to him, the earlier the better. The desire is such that in the book, he noted that constitutionally, the change we want can be effected within 48 hours, as there will be no need for a referendum.
Politics is a business in Nigeria. All is fair in war. You know, politics should be a service. That's why I wrote, to save Nigeria, let's talk. I'll be asking for decongesting the political space. If you decongest the political space, economic deregulation is automatic.
More interesting in his book is his view that the elite, the authors of chaos and mismanagement, would not let change to come. According to him, we seem to be daring time to tell, and time never fails to tell. Tony, having monitored our routing in civil rule continuously from 1999 to 2011, wrote the book, now available in 3 volumes, Democracy Watch, A Monitor's Diary, volumes 1 to 3. He noted that the future of Nigeria, and indeed the fulfillment of the mission spiritually ordained for it, will be determined by how we played our part as creatures.
The children who are being born now, if we open the environment to them and bring them up to put the spiritual dimension into what is happening now, Nigeria will be celebrated by the world. And that's what I see when I had to struggle that we decongest the political space so that there will be free performance of everybody anywhere in Nigeria. More than 250 cultural groups, you know, that are competing instead of cooperating. If they cooperate and stop competition, you will see the blossom.
He provided a framework for achieving the changes constitutionally through the Council of State and the packaging of the changes which the National Assembly will pass into law without debate and the State Assembly will endorse.
If you decongest the political space, you have less than 24 areas that federal government should concentrate on. All others will move to the regions. And they have emerged geopolitical zones. The geopolitical zones will now be focused for the states in the area to organize themselves. There are no geopolitical zones, 6 of them, that cannot feed the whole of Nigeria, even West Africa, through agriculture.
To save Nigeria, let us talk. A mind-blowing request from Tony Momoh, where he revealed the worries of Nigerians at the amount of money spent on the political arm of government, that is the legislature and the executive.
Look at the Southeast. They wear red cap. They wear feather on the red cap. That is, you get all that on the volume of wealth you are giving to the community. In Nigeria, we take almost every Nigerian, being a politician, is brought up to share a cake they have not been part of baking. You know, you have legislative arm, a law-making arm, the executive arm, law executive arm. The president executes all the laws made by the National Assembly. National Assembly makes law in the exclusive list and the concurrent list. Total them 93 areas. I've never heard of such heavy duty responsibility anywhere in the world. In a federation. And the president must execute law in 93 areas. So in federations, we pattern our federation after America. Most of the powers, even conducting elections, is in the states. Road building, agriculture, housing, these things are in the states. Things of common services, immigration, defense, currency, and some others are the one at the center.
To save Nigeria, let us talk appears to chronicle the depth of interest for the political space to be decongested. A country that wants to grow takes the quantum of freedom that will drive development and growth. Where the government spends more than 20% of its earnings on administering a polity, the people must sit down and think. Where less than 17,500 public officers pocket more than 75% of a country's earnings, then it is time to talk.
Sani told us that they collect 13.5 million naira every month to account for in the Senate. Every month. And yet, their salary is about 750,000 naira a month. Where do they get all that from? And Obasanjo said that we spend about 200 million naira on a senator every year. See? So what our own budgets are padded by the politicians, padded by the civil servants, padded by those who have access to the constitution, to the budget. And the money is just, withdrawn and shared.
Tony Momoh, in the 7-part chapters, critically analyzed reasons why restructuring of the nation is important. Part 1 saw the introduction dovetailing into Part 2, which noted that the current structure is a burden. Part 3, where we are and where we can be essentially if the country is not restructured, the government may not make any meaningful progress. Part 4, my proposal. Part 5, how to effect the changes. Part 6, gains from the changes. Part 7, conclusion. In all his submissions, he opines that something has to be done. He noted that those who say we must remain where we are unfair to history and must be ignorant of the fact that the only permanent thing in the life of a man and of institutions is change. So no arrangement is permanent and can be permanent. Where there are challenges, the stakeholders of the system should meet and discuss.
Have we the political will to do so? All you do is make lawmaking part-time, and you will save billions of naira. We had part-time before, experienced people who left government, pensioners, were being called to their communities to come and help. There were any pittance allowances. Now, a councillor is full-time. A supervisory councillor is full-time. A chairman is full-time. House of Assembly is full-time. House of Representatives is full-time. Governor is full-time. Even that presidential system, the governor is the only important personage in the state executive. The deputy governor is a spare tire. The commissioners, by and large, are those who failed the primaries to go to the House of Assembly. Members of the House of Assembly were elected. Now go to beg commissioner for contracts. Doesn't make sense. If you have parliamentary system there, as many people are now shouting, even Dume last week, if you have that type of arrangement, you give them, as was happening in the first republic, where those who were members of National Assembly will come about 3 months, and the Prime Minister and all the ministers were elected, and they went to Parliament every day. They raised questions which were answered every day, and there were any allowances.
Tony Momoh is of the firm view, as epitomized in his book, there just have to be talk. We must talk. Call the forum a sovereign national conference, a national conference, a meeting of nationalities of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. Any name would fly, but we must meet and talk. All stakeholders in the Nigerian enterprise.
We must decongest the political space, and that to save Nigeria, let's talk, is something I'll be getting out, which the Southwest wanted to start through the Yoruba agenda. And they took it to 2005 Constitutional Conference that Obasanjo called. Little did people know that it was meant to promote third term. And the Southwest governors were armed with the Yoruba agenda to decongest the political space and regionalize. When they got there, the information we had was that the president told them not to promote it, so they ditched it. During the June 12th celebration, I raised the issue that we who came from the South, the Midwest, are now in Midwest state, the Edo State, Delta State, we are really ashamed of what the Yorubas are doing. Otegbeye, another Afenifere leaders, told me that what happened in Abuja with the governor ditching the Yoruba agenda program, which they asked them to promote at the Constitutional Conference, were not authorized by Afenifere. They will give me a copy of that Yoruba agenda. It was sent to my office. I looked at it and discovered that it is consistent with my belief in the congested political space.
The book is a plea from Tony Momoh that we save Nigeria by looking its problems in the face dispassionately, solving them so that we can say that though tribe and tongue may differ in Nigeria arrangement, in brotherhood we stand.
To save Nigeria, let's talk. How to do it is there. Nigeria is stressed. Nigerians are stressed. You must decongest the political space. How to do it is there.
A man who passionately thinks of a better Nigeria, making the way straight today, will make the difference between joy and sorrow for our children and grandchildren. As a federation, the 36 states are too weak to constitute the federating unit. We need another buffer between the states and the center, and that is the present 6 zones that have naturally emerged. In his thoughts, they should constitute the federating unit. The powers at the center are too many. The power of the National Assembly as a de facto lawmaker for everything both on the exclusive and the concurrent list he considered not to be healthy for the federation. Tony Momoh is also of the strong view that government is too involved in business and thus promotes corruption. The people can be brought together as a nation through integrative programs.
If you send all these powers to the regions know what to do with the powers. The states are not strong enough to be the federation centers, because what they do is all the funding coming to the state is shared. What was happening in 1960? That was 4 regions. What 3 regions were sharing? 3 regions and later 4 with the Midwest. What 4 regions were sharing is what 36 states now share. And you only increase the opportunity to increase your recurrent expenditure. Our expenditure is now about 95% recurrent. Only about 5% for capital. There are nowhere in the world where recurrent is more than capital. Overbearing presence of recurrent or capital, that there can be growth. And what are we spending on this growing? We're spending more of this recurrent thing on the way we want to travel the democracy highway. That's on democracy. Everywhere in the world, democracy is the luxury of development. In other words, you develop and take that quantum of freedom you need to sustain development. In Nigeria, we spend more money on development, on this democracy, that freedom, than on development.
Tony Momoh proposed that the country should retain a three-tier government: the central government, the regional, and the state government. Local government should be funded by regional government. In his words, "Let us sow joy for posterity, and our offsprings shall never reap sorrow." At this age, the writer continues to sow with questions that will remain indelible except we outrightly work to correct the mistakes of our glorious past. Prince Tony Momoh, the journalist and a writer, has written over 27 books, and most of his books, apart from the ones that are spiritual, have always been written in desire for a system that could create transformation in the lives of Nigeria. His biggest interest is a need for people to come together and talk. In this wise, meaningful progress would have been made in the Federal Republic of Nigeria. Prince Tony Momoh has been awarded many honors, including fellowships of the Commonwealth Journalists Association, the Nigerian Institute of Public Relations, and the Advertising Council of Nigeria. He is a patron of the Performing Musicians Association of Nigeria and a holder of Seikyo Culture Award presented to him in Japan in recognition of his great contribution to society through his consistent and valuable activities for the sake of the creation of peace and culture. He is widely traveled and is married with 4 children, 3 boys and a girl, who form part of the more than 1,000-member Momoh clan in Lagos. He is a chieftain of the All Progressives Congress, APC, and Pro-Chancellor and Chairman of Council, University of Jos.